welcome or welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Liz, and on this channel I share how I journal and plan in both my health journal and my weekly daily journal. Today I want to talk a little bit about how journaling supports my ADHD and hopefully share some insights or tips that might help you as well. Because we're moving from January to February, I'll be using a sticker kit that symbolises in bulk. If you're not aware, then in bulk is one of the quietly powerful celebrated moments on the pagan wheel, and it often gets overlooked, and it's celebrated around the 1st or 2nd of February and marks the halfway point between winter solstice and spring equinox. Symbolically, it's the moment where that winter feeling starts to lose its grip, the days get longer, the light's returning, and under the frozen ground there's life that's starting to stir up. If you're interested in owning these stickers, then I can leave my Patreon link in the description. You can go over there and just have a little bit of a look. It's free to join, and there's a tiered element where you pay a small subscription price and you get a sticker collection or a clip art collection where you can print these stickers at home for that set subscription price. I am going to go ahead and cut these out by hand. I'm just going to give you a preview of each sheet. The art is really high quality, so you can print it kind of like on the full A4 size and you won't lose any of that quality. It won't become grainy or anything like that. I have printed these on washi paper and I've experimented a little bit, and if I set my printer to print on matte paper, the quality is absolutely crystal clear. For plain white paper, you just want to set your printer to plain paper and this will have exactly the same effect. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and cut these out, ready to set up for the next week. See you in just a moment. Okay, that's all those cut out, and this week I am starting with the daily pages, which is a little bit different to what I'd normally do. I'm not sure if I fully addressed this in a previous video, but I was diagnosed with ADHD quite some years ago now, and I've worked really hard through things like diet changes, lifestyle adjustments to manage my symptoms without medication. One of the biggest things I've learned is that I need space to actively process, and journaling has been the most powerful tool for that. I'm sure most of you have heard of the term ADHD, but it is still quite misunderstood today. So you might think it's something where you have too much energy and you can't sit still, but be completely unaware that it is a lot more than that. And some of the things that you might experience if you're someone with ADHD include being a lot more sensitive to rejection or interpreting rejection differently, becoming overwhelmed by tasks to the point where you actually become paralysed because you're that overwhelmed by the amount of tasks you've got to do. You're not sure what order to do them in, that you just do nothing. You might get racing thoughts, which can make it difficult to follow a conversation. You can hyper focus on tasks and hobbies to the point where you put yourself in this kind of little bubble, which means that you can lose track of time and not take care of your own needs very well. So one of my things in the past was being that hyper focused on something, I would forget to eat all day and I would feel utterly crap at the end of the day. 70% or more of people with ADHD have trouble with sleep, specifically staying asleep. I'm one of those 70% or more people. It's horrible. I don't know how anyone can function on such little sleep. I probably wake up around 22 times in the night, and some days it's difficult, really difficult. The last thing that I want to mention is executive functioning issues, and this can have a massive impact on a person, and it can lead quite often to feeling guilty or having a lot of negative self-talk. Executive function is a cognitive process and a mental skill that's managed by the brain's frontal lobe, and it enables people to plan, focus attention, remember instructions, manage their emotions successfully, and to be able to juggle multiple tasks. So, kind of like multitasking or having a couple of projects on the go at the same time. It can impact a lot of things in life when your executive function is a little bit skew-if. So your working memory, being able to remember multiple steps and instructions, the level of self-control that you have, kind of like impulsivity and being able to stay away from things that you know aren't good for you or distractions, and managing your emotions, things like that. Cognitive flexibility, so the capacity to adapt to a new situation or switch between tasks, maybe think about problems in a different way. Now, I personally have trouble with switching between tasks. It's something I noticed quite heavily when I was doing my psychology degree, and having that time to study and allotting the time in the morning to study, and then switching to another task in the afternoon, and then maybe switching back to studying in the evening was something that I couldn't do. So I had to have long stints of study. So dedicate maybe a Tuesday and a Friday to study, and then get everything else done in between those days, because I just couldn't keep switching between different types of tasks. There are things you can do to help to optimize your executive functioning skills, which I have managed to put some in place successfully. And these might include your planning and organisation, so creating complete roadmaps to reach goals, breaking it right down into tiny weeny pieces, and then putting those pieces in order of priority, which needs doing first. This can help with things like task paralysis, especially when you kind of look at a whole project and become that overwhelmed. If you break it down so you know exactly what you're doing, and then put those breakdown points in order, you know where you're starting, where you're ending, what comes in between, how you need to do it, for example. There's also the time management element of things. So estimate your time. You've got to meet a deadline at some point in your life. You need to break down these tasks, have a look what you've got to do, and estimate the time. I would normally estimate more time than what I think I need, because you never know what's going to come up. Then there's the task initiation, so starting tasks without procrastinating, which can be a huge issue with ADHD. Again, if you break down these tasks, you know exactly where you're going to start. Motivation comes from action. So once you start, you're more likely to carry on. Don't sit there and think about it for an hour. Don't sit there and think about it for a week. Aim to do 5 minutes of one task, and the motivation will kick in and it will push you to carry on. Then there's the self-monitoring element, where you evaluate your performance and behaviour, make modifications if you need them, or just look at what's working for you and sustain that method. Most of these things to support executive functioning are related to active processing, and this is when you would consciously think about information and intentionally act on it. So you've got passive processing and active processing. The passive processing is something that you would automatically do without thinking about it. So if I give an example, I might kick my shoes off and then sit down for a while, and then I might need a wee or something, and get up and trip over them, and I'll do nothing about it. I'm unable to actively process that I've just kicked my shoes, hurt my toe, maybe hopped about a little bit. And for me, I might have to trip over them multiple times. Then I'd feel frustrated. I would notice that my foot hurts. I'd think about why it hurts. And then finally, I'd move the shoes out the way. That level of actually consciously thinking about it is active processing, as opposed to passive processing. It's something that the majority of, neurotypical people possess, and they would just trip over the shoes and, without even thinking about it, move the shoes out the way and get on with the rest of their life. The delay in active processing with neurodiverse people, especially those with ADHD, maybe those with autism as well, it can be incredibly frustrating, and that's why journaling helps. It gives you that place to be actively processing information, thinking about how you're going to solve this problem, and then doing something about it. So my journal acts as a kind of external brain, and it helps me to take fleeting thoughts and turn them into something tangible and organised, which massively supports my executive functioning. Without a place to actively process, my executive function really struggles. Becomes difficult to know kind of where to start, how to start, what comes next, and then I get overwhelmed and then I just procrastinate. So it gives me that space to break down tasks, explore thoughts and ideas, and maybe turn a vague overwhelm into some clear steps. That a good example of a task breakdown for me would be something like filming a video. So it is easy to just sit there and say, right, I'll film a video today. But for me, it isn't quite that simple, and I do need the breakdown. So I'll journal things like video preparation, what I need to film, stickers, pens, materials that I want to use, how I want the page laid out, what I want to talk about. Then I'll break down the actual filming, so introduction, the main body, the outro, any little bits that might go in between there, and then I'll do the editing list, things like speeding up the clips, adjusting the blur or contrast, or anything to do with the image itself, cutting unusable footage, that kind of thing. Being able to break it down into small, clear steps helps me to know exactly what I'm doing and when I'm doing it, which makes my time management and my productivity far more accessible. I'm able to complete tasks, achieve things, and in return, feel good about myself and feel good about what I've done. This leads me to the neurological side of things, and there is a neurological element to this. The prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for the executive function, relies heavily on dopamine and norepinephrine, and in ADHD, these areas are less active, so I have to intentionally give myself small dopamine rewards. And using these checklists, ticking things off, might seem really simple, but that physical action for me personally releases dopamine, and that helps me stay consistent and motivated. So overall, that tick, that little tiny weeny tick, is my reward. Okay, so we've come to the end of decorating that first week or so. I think it's about 9 days, and I'll give a preview of my previous weeks where I just stick date stickers, I'll pop the prompt at the top, and I have my task list down the side. Now, I filmed this on the Monday, and because I needed a few rest days, I've not actually filled the prompt out for those days, but I will go back and backfill it. There is another day where I've not filled the prompt out and I'll go back, and there's a day where there's a lot of space because my prompt didn't fill the page, and I'll go back and pop in any bits for that day or add to the prompt at a later date. I've just been so exhausted, I've just needed to catch up on everything, so that's why they've been left a little bit on the sparse side or not been filled in at all. As you can see, I have used a few different sticker kits. So I've got the grey winter sticker kit, I have the pink winter sticker kit and the in bulk, and then this one is the berry winter, which is more of a traditional red kind of Christmassy. I really like it. I don't care that it looks a little bit Christmassy. I wanted to start my year off with this. I have my Dutch doors at the front, and then every layout is done exactly the same way. The date, the prompt, stick the stickers down, and then work around the stickers. I find it a lot easier to fill in the page if it's decorated rather than being overwhelmed by a big blank piece of paper. I will go in and fill in these prompts now and then come back. Okay, so that's a journal prompts done. I've written them all for the week except for Sunday because that's the day of in bulk. How I differentiate what's included in the today list and the week is that the tasks are more like a header. Sometimes they're broken down a little bit in the weekly section, but not fully broken down. And in the day, I'll fully break down the tasks, including the fact that I have a brew, do emails, take medication, fill in my journal prompt. This day, I needed to put the food shop away. I researched some algorithms, my scheduling YouTube shorts, that's all broken down. So add music, download, upload to YouTube, titles, description, task, schedule, so on. This day I had an early dinner because we had an unexpected trip to A&E for my partner, whose GP sent him straight there to check for a cardiac event. So I've written down a little list of things to take with me, something to do, Rubik's Cube, a couple of books, antihistamines, pain relief, food, drink, portable battery, things like that. I didn't come back and fill anything else in because we didn't actually get home until gone 3 a.m. Here you can see the same kind of thing, tasks broken down. I've uploaded a YouTube video, title, description, tags, settings, thumbnail, end screen, pins. I created a media list, a to read, films to watch, series to watch. Again, all my tasks are broken down at the side. This is just what I find works best for me. I'll go in and draw a line to separate the tasks from the journal inside. I think I like it more visually, but it isn't necessary. And then in the weekly, I will time block, and in the daily, I won't time block. There are numbers in the daily, but I'll just ignore them. It's a list of like priority tasks and how they're broken down. And then in the weekly, I will plan my tasks as a kind of header and then allot the amount of time for them. For example, we have things like placing orders. I won't break that down. If I did, then the time blocking won't work because the tasks would just run right over the allocated time and end up completely filling the day. The time blocking works best for me on reflection because then I can look back and say whether it's too long, it took longer than expected, or I didn't allot enough time and I need to give myself a little bit more. I can then, going forward, effectively manage my time a little bit better. I have included some memory keeping bits as it was a slower business week because it's the New Year week. Okay, let's move on and see how I plan the week. So it's Monday and I've gone in and placed this sticker for me and my partner because we have this little date night where we just go for a coffee for an hour, and I've placed that there just to mark it and remind myself that I need that space. I will always use sticker icons from Papershare. I've got quite a big collection ranging from media consumption, business, study, health, some decorative elements. I will leave her link in the description. She is currently on a holiday at the moment, but she will be back. I do find her range is fitting for most things in life, so I probably will stick to these icons throughout this journal. And then moving forward into setting up the day, the first thing that I do when I start my day is emails. So on a Monday, I do know that some tasks I'll need to fill in, so I can place those in before I even start my day. One of those is emails, and then I know I'll be prepping my son's lunch for college. He will go in about 10:30, so I know that I'll need to get that done beforehand. And I also know that I'll be allotting time for life admin, which is quite a normal thing for me to do on a Monday. this Monday I need to remember to also ring the oil company, so I will also write that down just so I don't forget. I will probably write it down in multiple places, because if I don't look in one place and I look in another, I want to make sure it's getting done. And then I know that I'm going to be recording this video, the part one of this video anyway, so I'll make sure I've written that in and allot time for that as well. Once I've written everything that I know that I'm going to be doing that day, the kind of non-negotiable pieces of information and tasks that I need to get done, I'll go in and actually time block by drawing a line between the times that I need to dedicate for those tasks. So I'll just go in with a Uniball, one gel pen, and allot those times. And then I like to block off the allotted time with a dot, just so I know that that's the end of that task segment. I will then have a look at some stickers that I want to use. I'm going to be using this one for life admin. I think it's really fitting, and I'll pop that one down. I don't have any stickers currently for recording videos, so I've not really got anything that's relevant for recording, and I don't know if I'm going to need to use that space. I will pop in that this is part one of the video, and that will remind me then to fill in the information for tomorrow when I record part two and edit all of the pieces together. I also know that I'll be cooking and prepping dinner at around 5:30. We like to eat somewhere between 6 and 6:30, so I'll pop in there, prep and cook. And I definitely know that soon after I'll be taking a shower. Oh, and here is my dyslexia spilling all over the page. I do squeeze an E in, and I'd rather it look like this than me put a great big line through it and make it stand out like a sore thumb. Once I've taken a shower, I'm going to do some business admin, and then I will probably do some ancestry for the rest of the evening. So I will go ahead and just pop those in there, and then time block my section before bedtime. I do go to bed at 10 o'clock. I go to bed at 10 o'clock every day. I like to keep the same routine. I will also go in and fill in my intentions and the priority to do down the side for the week. I don't know what I'm going to be doing at the moment. As you can see, there is a block of time between 12 and 5 that's left empty, and that's because at the moment I'm suffering with a really extreme episode of sciatica. I get a little bit of hip pain, and then bam, sciatica comes on. And I have it at the moment, so I'm not sure how much I can get done within this space of time, or what I'm going to be able to do in that space of time. Okay, the last thing that I want to emphasize is that for someone with ADHD, being told to just start journaling, it will help you, can feel really overwhelming. And you might immediately think, well, what do I journal about? What kind of journal do I need? What if I can't stick to it? And the truth is, there is no one size fits all approach. Some people use a blank notebook and just date every time they write in it. Some keep a running task list. Some use prompts. I personally share daily prompts on my shorts that are aligned with the moon phases to support reflection and personal growth, but that doesn't mean that that's what you need. It helps me, it helps other people, it might help you, it might not. You might journal about your day or a single event, or just to make sense of something that's happened. You need to experiment, follow what works for you. It absolutely doesn't have to look like everyone else's practice to be valid, it just needs to work for you. Journaling is a tool, not a rule. And when it's shaped around your brain, not focused against it, it can become incredibly supportive. If you've liked this video, then please don't forget to click the thumbs up button. And if you're not a subscriber yet, then consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!